Hi friends, it's Sarah. This isn't really a Costume Codex video. What I decided to do, I keep finding myself talking my favorite show up all over the place, my favorite non-Buffy show. And I thought, you know what? Why don't I sit down and make a quick little video that's why I love Farscape. So let's get this out of the way. It's gorgeous. I mean, design nerd that I am, costume nerd, I just love it. It's Jim Henson's company and they go to town on the Muppets and the costumes and all of it. It's weird and it feels alien. It works for the world that it is. Up front, I like the design. So sue me, that's who I am.
Anybody hear me, Canaveral?
When Farscape begins, it's a fairly standard adventure story. There's the hero, astronaut, scientist, and all-American hero, John Crichton. He has a call to adventure when he's accidentally wormholed into a distant part of the universe. He meets a girl, Aeryn Sun, former peacekeeper. There's an antagonist, Grace, the insane military commander of the Peacekeepers. And a 5-man band, Dargo, John, Rigel, Pilot, and Shiana. They're escaped prisoners and they all crew the living ship Moya. Typical adventure story stuff in a fantastic world with amazing design. But the story doesn't really begin until John is unknowingly given some ancient wormhole knowledge that could change the balance of power in the universe. Enter Scorpius. He's one of the best villains ever written. He's kind of like an alien Javert with zero conscience and utterly ruthless. He will do anything to get the knowledge, including hunting him down and torturing him. From there, it's not just a story about adventure. It's a story about trauma, a very human story about trauma. And the fantasy adventure stuff becomes a way for the writers to explore questions about trauma. How do you survive deep and profound trauma? Losing everything, possibly losing yourself. How do you begin to rebuild after that? How do you trust? How do you make friends? How do you love? Because this story really is a love story. Well, actually, really, it's two love stories. There's a great love story between the two men, between Dargo and John. It's deeper than a bromance because, unlike a lot of bromance-type things, they aren't afraid to get vulnerable with each other, to fight with one another, to be total dorks together. It's really nice to see masculine community, explored like that, and for this Dargo, who you expect to be this barbarian character with these tentacles on his face, to actually turn out to be a big, soft sweetheart that you can't help loving. The main love story is between John and Aeryn.
Would you like to name some stars?
We've seen where it starts a million times. The will they, won't they, two people who are dancing around each other and clearly into each other. But it goes somewhere interesting because they stop doing will they, won't they, and they start doing how will they. How will two people with a lot of damage, still working through their issues and working on themselves, build a relationship? The answer that they come up with is slow and awkward and imperfect, and that's life, and that's why it's one of my favorite love stories. Two people trying to get together despite or because they are who they are. And it's a credit to the show and to the writers who started to understand what they were writing, that they give her equal weight to him in the story. And honestly, it's her arc more than anything that brings me back to this show. Essentially, she comes from a culture that is pure toxic masculinity across all the genders.
Compassion? What is compassion?
Compassion? You're kidding, right?
Totally fascist, no room for any emotions. And she was raised by the state to be cannon fodder, to be a grunt, and nothing else. So no family, comrades, but no family, and no relationships. Sex is only recreation in their world. And here's the thing. John doesn't rescue her. He doesn't save her, and he doesn't fix her. Occasionally he tries, but he doesn't fix her. She chooses. She makes her own choices, and she decides to be more than she was made to be. And that's why this is so good. Because this is so rare. You know, we don't get a lot of stories where men and women have equal power, and we don't get a lot of stories where nobody fixes the other, and we certainly don't get a lot of shows like that from 20 years ago. And honestly, it's a great story. At times, the writing rivals Buffy, and that's one of my favorite things. Buffy's 6th season means a lot to me. Yes, I'm one of those people. Buffy's 6th season means a lot to me. I watched it in a deep depression, and it felt like somebody saw me there and sat with me there. Farscape? Farscape is about what comes after that. Farscape taught me to have hope. It shows how you keep going, how you keep hoping, even when that's all you have is hope.
When I get back, everyone, my dad, DK, my sisters, Cameron Diaz, Buffy the Vampire Slayer will be dead.
Well, you may never see these people again anyway.
Hope, Dargo. It's what keeps you going. You're gonna see your... I'm gonna get home. Hope. I have hope. Or I'm nothing.
And that's why I keep coming back to it. And that's why I tell people to watch it. And I won't lie, there are some dodgy episodes here, particularly in the first season. And there are bits here that haven't aged well. That's to be expected, it's 20 years old. And it's not for everyone. It is strange. Really, 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 really.
Hey, you know what? It's a weird universe out there, man.
And it's full of Muppets and weird sex. We'll call that an acquired taste. But in amongst the leather and the strings and the felt is just a good story about some interesting people. And that's why I love Farscape. And maybe you will too.